I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different, and every breakup is different. Work with me, and you'll get professional help on your situation. Just click on the link in the description below, or go to my website, askcraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
Hi there, I'm Coach Margaret.
And look, we look like twins today. We're matching.
Yes.
And today we're going to be talking about what is mental health.
That's always a useful topic to talk about.
Especially with relationships.
Yes.
Because one of the things that most people don't ever even consider is their level of mental health, their partner's level of mental health, and how that affects a relationship.
Absolutely.
Because it's such a massive part about a relationship, right?
Absolutely.
And so today we're going to explore, just kind of look at it and let you think about it and marinate how it affects your own relationships. So one of the things that's really important to understand is mental health and how it affects your relationships and your breakups.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay? So when you think therapy, of course, Freud comes to mind.
Freud comes to mind, or should.
So, Freud had a very simple definition of mental health.
Freud, when he was asked by everyone, what's mental health, because you're always talking about illnesses and complexes and all sorts of bad things, Freud said for the adult, it's the ability to love and to work.
Okay, so what does that mean, to love and to work? And now we've got a fly in here.
Yes, we do.
Margaret, you're attracting flies.
This fly is attaching to me. I can see it now.
What does that say? You remand of it?
I remind it of its mother. Absolutely. Mrs. Fly. I used to fly around at dusk.
So,
shall we go on?
What does that mean, to work and to love?
To work is, we'll start with to work. To work is not quite as simple as it sounds. You have to be sane and reasonable enough to find a job or get a profession, and that takes some doing. You have to be able to get up and comb your hair and get where you're going, and you have to function well enough on the job not to be fired the first day you get there. So to work sort of applies some ability to function. And certainly not everyone can do it.
And that's one thing that you want to look at is my partner able to hold the job? Do they go from job to job? Are they constantly quitting or coming up with excuses why they can't work?
Right.
Because if that's what they're doing, that's a good indication.
And that's a lifetime of trouble. So to work is not quite as benign as it sounds. To love is a little bit more complex.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because with love, you're trying to figure out attachment.
Right.
And people get very confused about attachment theories, what is love, what's the difference between love and attachment.
Right. Not much. But it's not the simplest definition in the world. Most of us immediately respond with, how does this person make me feel? That's the biggest part that goes forward.
Yes, because how somebody makes you feel is a big indicator of how they're feeling inside.
Yes, and of how they feel in general. If somebody immediately makes you feel anxious, be aware of that. If somebody makes you feel happy, certainly be aware of that. Those are big indicators, and your own feelings can be helpful. This is not something that's talked about very much, but eventually we're going to do a talk on techniques and so forth to gauge your feelings and how you put yourself in the other person's position and so forth. That's for another day, though.
And that comes along with anxiety.
Yes, it does.
Because I've seen a massive correlation between anxiety and your ability or inability
to attach.
And to have empathy.
And to have empathy, yes.
One of the biggest things that I see is that when people are anxious, they are very selfish and very self-absorbed, and they are not considering what anybody else needs or wants.
Right. The view of the world narrows if you feel like you're in crisis, and you can't really think about much else.
So, if you want to try and figure out what is somebody's level of mental health, you want to look at what is their work like. Are they able to have a career?
Do they have a job history? Right. Yeah, a work history.
And how well is it going?
Yes.
And then you want to look at their relationships with other people too.
Yes.
Can they keep friends? Do they have friends?
Right.
And what is their relationship like with their friends?
Right.
Now, of course, it's going to be different than a romantic attachment, because then you have all those unmet needs that come into play.
Right. But some of it comes up in regular friendships as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Absolutely.
Attachment is attachment. Also, look very carefully at what's their attachment with their family of origin.
That's right.
Because that will affect your life if you stay with this person for any length of time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we don't live in an isolated bubble.
No.
We have to deal with their friends, their family.
Right.
And you might want to look at their friends and family's level of mental health.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because all of those pieces are going to come into play.
Now I'll give you some terms here. There are engaged families and there are disengaged families.
What does that mean, Margaret? I've never talked about that before.
No, there's a new one for you.
They're probably going, let me get my pen out.
All right.
What is an engaged family?
An engaged family are people who spend time together, enjoy things together, and who talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And there's the big one. I've run into families who haven't talked to each other in days, weeks, or months. Mm-hmm. So feelings are not acknowledged or shared. And that is certainly a huge part of a love relationship.
Absolutely.
Right.
So an engaged family, for those of you that are still trying to process this, that would be a secure attachment style.
A secure attachment style where people, they probably have their ups and downs, as every family does, but overall they love each other and enjoy each other's company.
Yes. And what was the other one you were saying?
A disengaged family.
That doesn't sound good.
It's not. I once had an adolescent who told me that she spent much of her time in her room because that's where her turtle lived, in his whatever the turtle lived in, and he was really her only relationship.
Ugh, that's horrible.
Oh yeah, this poor kid. But the family had a very distant relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm. Now what about enmeshed?
Enmeshed is a dramatic. Okay, so we're good. We've got engaged family, we've got disengaged family. Enmeshed is just what it sounds like. It's the end of the spectrum where there's too much togetherness, too much leaning on each other to function, and it's very difficult for anyone to separate in a healthy way from an enmeshed family.
And it's not healthy at all.
Not at all.
And with my ex that I talk about,
yes,
that broke up with me many years ago, you were there through all of that.
I was.
We discovered that they had a very enmeshed type family unit and it wasn't healthy.
And that was a very good observation on Craig's part, and he did take the warning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it was a situation where it was immediate family members,
right,
mom and siblings and mom's granddaughter were all enmeshed. All the partners were outsiders,
yes,
looking in.
Yeah.
I was
boyfriend or girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mom's husband was,
yes,
the sister's husband
yes,
was.
Yes.
Everybody else was an outsider to that unit, and
right,
you couldn't get in.
Right.
And they made you know it.
Yes,
they let you know.
You felt it very definitely.
Mm-hmm.
We're it, and you're not.
That's right.
Yeah.
And those are some of the things that you have to look at.
Yes, you do. You look at everything, and especially look at how things make you feel.
Now, one of the big questions that people want to know is how to figure things out, what to do, how to move on, and you have told me for a long, long time that the way that we heal
is words. We're different from the animals because we have words. Animals have feelings too, but they can't talk about them. They can't talk at all. So if you're into any kind of mental health, anything, or any kind of treatment or coaching, words are the most effective tools we have. And it can sometimes be very difficult to help people from disengaged families understand that the only tool we have is talking.
That's right. And you have told me time and time again that the way you have to get through these things is to talk about it.
Talk, yes.
You have to talk about it, guys.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm always telling people is that unfortunately that people going through a breakup, they are going to their friends and
Right.
which is not unfortunate that they have friends and
It's
family.
very good.
But their friends and family are going to give them bad advice.
They're going to give them bad advice, not because they mean to, but you hear all the platitudes. If you just got out and did something, you'd feel better when you're too depressed to get out of your chair. And people will try, and then they'll get tired of it.
And the other thing is that I have found that therapists just have no training in regards to a breakup.
That is absolutely true. I don't recall hearing a word about breakups.
Yeah.
I learned an enormous amount about attachment in school, but nothing about a breakup and how you handle it. And it's such a common human experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all feel this incredible pain
Right.
and loss when we go through it.
Right.
And then when we go to friends and family, their advice is bad and not on purpose,
No.
but they just don't know what to tell
Right.
you to do.
Right.
And then
Right.
you go to a therapist and the therapist doesn't generally
Doesn't
have...
know either.
Yeah, and they tell you to do the same things your friends and family tell you to do.
Right.
So that is why I've spent so much time
Right.
working on this and trying to figure it out for the last, how many years?
And you certainly have worked on figuring it out. But he's right. There's lots of couples therapy advice in the literature, but there isn't all that much about what to tell somebody to do when they're in the middle of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because, you want to handle things very differently from when you're broken up and not speaking or trying to reattract the person than you would if both people have come together and said, yes, we're going to work that out. That is a completely separate area.
Yes.
And my frustration has been, there's just been no good information that I've had to put it together.
Yeah. And you're in crisis when this happens. So
Yeah.
you need to be told something concrete.
Yes, a
Not-
plan.
Right.
And through, I think, my trial and errors, I figured out exactly how to figure.
You figured out what not to do.
Well, I did originally, but now,
Now you know.
now I know what to do,
Yes.
as you've seen.
I've seen, yes.
So, mental health is a really, really critical part of understanding a breakup.
Right.
And we're going to explore, soon, we're going to put out a video on borderline personality
Yes.
disorder, because it's very, very important to understand somebody if they have a personality disorder or if they're having mental health issues.
Right.
And the reason we're going to do borderline is...
It is the most severe of the attachment disorders, in my opinion. And
more severe than narcissism.
they attract more attention. The narcissist is quieter, he just sits around and thinks about himself. The borderline thinks about you and what they want from you and how they're going to get it.
And they do a lot of acting out.
Yes, they do. An enormous amount of acting out.
We're going to talk about that in a separate video.
Right.
But I think we did a nice little discussion on mental health and
Yes.
just trying to understand
Yes.
what to look at. Is there any other points that you wanted to make about it?
Simply to say, does this person walk around on a daily basis and function in general?
If they don't, you want to rethink their ability to be in a relationship with you.
Yes, you do. Yes,
So,
you do.
that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth,
I'm Coach Margaret.
and we will talk with you soon.